Hey folks, it's Sam, and I'm talking today about Jupiter in Gemini, not just in Gemini, but after the Mars transit that we just had. Mars went through Gemini from the end of January until beginning of April. So Mars went through Gemini, and now Jupiter is there. So as it says here, wisdom after the wreckage. It's an appropriate way to describe what we've all been through lately, because again, Mars had been grinding back and forth through the sign of Gemini for several months, again, from the end of January until early April. And now that Jupiter is there, one of the main things that we can notice that's going to be happening is Jupiter, the guru and the teacher, coming in and bringing insight. As it says here, Mars lit the match, Jupiter brings the map. Nice little turn of the phrase. So this Jupiter in Gemini transit should not only be seen just as a new beginning for Jupiter energy for the next year, which it is that, of course, but also, at least immediately and noticeably right now, because there had been so much pressure on the sign of Gemini, we're getting some lessons around this area of life right now, right? And we're getting some grace and insight flowing into an area of life that for much of this year has been quite stressful. You know, the first couple months of the year, again, from the end of January until early April, till April 1st, Mars had gone there. So, by the way, I just want to do a little quick promotion of some free things that you can get here. I have this jupiterwebinar.com website you can go to and get this free class that I did. It's about an hour and a half where I go over the Jupiter in Gemini shift for the next year, what it's going to mean for you and your sign. Also a great, revisiting of the past Jupiter in Gemini, transits. So again, a great way to just, reflect on what is coming up for you. And I'm also even doing some quick readings where I talk about these three shifts that are happening. Saturn just went into Pisces, where he'll be for 2.5 years on March 30th. Again, Jupiter just went into Gemini, expanding ideas. And Rahu and Ketu are also about to move at the end of the month. So if you want insight into your chart about these three big shifts, you can go to my 2025 VedicAstrology.com and get that. So a lot going on here. But you maybe have noticed this shift recently of Jupiter moving into Gemini. Jupiter had been in Taurus for a year, starting, in like April of 2024. And so he's, now in Gemini. So one of the first things that we noticed that happened is a new pope. Jupiter is definitely related to popes. And notice this new pope that we have, this Pope Leo, very verbal, very Gemini-like. By the way, the last pope was also actually had a Gemini ascendant. We don't know the pope's ascendant. I'm going to do a case study on him, but at least right away he's come out and made a big statement about, woke and, there's nothing wrong with being woke and all this kind of stuff. And again, I know some people, just because I said that, they're going to lose their mind. But regardless of what you think of it, this is an astrology case study. And Gemini is about communication. And again, this Jupiter now going into Gemini, Jupiter is literally the Pope. It's called Brihaspati, or Guru, in Vedic thinking. And Brihaspati is like the priest. So Jupiter is literally the Vedic priest. The best symbol for him would be a pope, right? A spiritual leader. So here Jupiter goes into Gemini right as we have a new pope come, and this new pope comes out of the gates. Outspoken, literally about the topics of the day. And the global topics of the day have to do with turning away immigrants. This is global, right? Immigrants, aliens, equal rights, all this kind of stuff. The Pope is speaking to the events of the day, very much like Francis did as well. So this is one of the first things I noticed, like, okay, it's not just that he came out and did a, opening speech, but it was very much the kind of speech that people who are anti-woke, or at least using this term woke as a political weapon, don't like to hear. Because he said, yeah, it's good to be woke because you're awake to the injustices and stuff like that. So just seeing these trends. Now, again, there's other ways to look at it, other types of speaking out that we're going to be able to see. But this is one of the first ones that is so noticeable. But again, in your life, because this is more about personal, I'm going to be doing a few updates about the global events and the implications, because there are many. And just to, allude to that, things like AI, we're going to really now start to see the explosiveness of AI even more, because of course, again, Jupiter is those things that are inspiring us, that are leading us, that are taking us to the next level. That's really what, gurus and teachings are, things that are inspiring us. And those things that are inspiring us are increasingly becoming connected to technology, AI, things like that. And in fact, even, the leading technology companies are now all sort of pivoting to AI models, even more so now. Google is going way in on AI now, even more so, even built into the Android phone, and again, even like Microsoft and Meta or Facebook are also, again, just going way in on the AI, platforms. This is really the next huge advance, and it's already here, but now it's going to be even more so than we thought possible. And thus, with this explosion of AI, there's also more of the potential illusion and exploitation that's there. I've been saying it now for many years, but especially when Rahu went into Gemini, now that was back in 2019, I believe, I said we're going to now really see the ramifications of the age of disinformation. We're not just in the information age, we're in the disinformation age, the misinformation age, the age of spin and illusion. We were in it before. We thought we were in it before, I should say. Now we're in it more than ever, where, fantasy is reality, and it's just like entire segments of, leaders and leadership. Everything is propaganda, and it's so hard for most people to tell the difference. So, AI is just going to expand the potential for harm as well. So we have to be very careful, of course, right now relative to those things. But, again, this in your personal life. And again, by the way, this is what I'm going to be doing when I do these readings. If you want to know how this Jupiter in Gemini is affecting you, we're going to, that it's that sign. Like, for example, I'm a Gemini. So that Mars that was going through Gemini was going through my first house, like kind of disrupting my whole, physical location, right? And this is the time when I had to decide to move, and everything got disrupted. Now Jupiter's coming in behind it, bringing more inspiration and grace and peace and settling me personally around these things, for example. But like if you're a Leo, then it was going through your 11th house. Mars, that transit of Mars was through your 11th house. Now it's Jupiter through the 11th house. So this is what I meant when I started by saying this kind of wisdom after the wreckage. Mars comes in and kind of wrecks everything. Now, again, there are often things that need to be wrecked. Mars comes in kind of like a wrecking ball. And like in my case, I've now moved out of the place I was living in, but these things needed to be wrecked a little bit because I had to move, right? I had to make a change in my life. And Mars comes and it's like, okay, now you're going to have to do it. And when he goes there, then we get the force and the passion and power to do it. But then after the wreckage, there's repair, wreckage and repair, or in this case, and wisdom, right? Because this isn't repair, this is wisdom. Venus would be more of the repair. Now it's the wisdom to understand, okay, that's not just wisdom in the abstract, but also in the literal sense of like, okay, now this is settling in so I can conceptually handle what happened. Like, for example, if you're a Sagittarius person, for example, Mars came in and went through your 7th house, right? Now Jupiter is going through your 7th house. So Mars may have come in and really kind of wrecked your interactions or your relationships a little bit. Now Jupiter's coming in behind and giving perspective. So this is what Jupiter always does. So again, this is the cycle that we're all in right now, right? And with these quick readings, I say quick, it's 15 minutes where I'm going to get in there. That might not sound like much, but I can talk a lot going through these 3 shifts. Because again, Saturn also just went into Pisces a couple months ago, month and a half ago, not even 2 months ago as I record this at the end of May, and he's going to be there for 2.5 years. So Saturn is just still now getting established in Pisces. Rahu is about to leave Pisces and Ketu is about to leave Virgo. So they're going to shift. We're on the cusp of a 1.5-year shift with both of them as well, including obviously the Jupiter and Gemini. So this is some of the most pivotal energy you're going to feel within a couple month cycle. Within a couple months, very rarely are you going to see Saturn move into a new place, Jupiter move into a new place, and both nodes change all within a couple months. So again, if you think things have been unpredictable and topsy-turvy so far this year, not to say you ain't seen nothing yet, but kind of you haven't, because we're still in the midst of huge shifts that are happening. And of course, we can look at them in the world, but I'm talking about them more in your life. And I'm sure you've been feeling that nature of Pisces, as I've been saying, things that we have to let go of that aren't coming back. Like I had to let go of the place I've lived. It ain't coming back because certain things with my work have just shifted and it ain't coming back. So you got to kind of let go with that, right? That's the Pisces. And now Rahu went through Pisces, then Saturn set up in Pisces. And where he's now solidifying that. All that stuff you had to let go with all those eclipses based on whatever your sign was. Well, now Saturn has come in and said, yeah, it's gone. Now you better build something permanent from the wreckage or the shards of the old that you were trying to hang on to. Hopefully you've either let go of it or it's let go of you, certain aspect of life. And now you need to make something stable in that area of life, which is Saturn in Pisces. So he's now there. And whether you're doing it or not, that's what's happening. So if you want insight into that, again, that's why I say let me look at this area of your life. I can do a lot in 15 minutes. And again, Jupiter in Gemini is affecting you. It's in one of your houses. And Rahu and Ketu are moving from Pisces as well. So again, these are very transformative times right now. And again, aside from whether you get the video, whether you get a reading or not, or if you get, again, this free web class is also going to be very powerful. I already did it. Now you would get the recording. It's an hour and a half, and it was very transformative about each of the 12 signs and the cultural trends that represented by Jupiter and Gemini. So again, these are huge shifts. I'm making this video again mostly about this connection between Mars and Gemini, because again, between Mars and Jupiter going through Gemini. Because again, especially if you think back, the end of January until early April, all of this frustration or this kind of intensity was affecting you in a certain aspect of life, wherever the sign of Gemini falls, right? So Mars has since moved. He's in Cancer now, but again, Jupiter is now coming behind where that Mars was and bringing healing and wisdom after that sort of discombobulation and kind of wreckage that came. And again, I want to be clear, it's not always wreckage like it's bad. In fact, it's never bad. It's there to give you the courage to destroy the things that need to be destroyed. That's the nature of Mars. And it gives you the courage and the power and the focus to actually do it. Right? And where you realize, okay, I can't wait around anymore. I need to do this thing. Right? And we can procrastinate a lot, and then Mars goes somewhere and says, okay, it's time to get off your ass and do something here. And again, this is why Mars can seem like it's destructive. It is destructive, but it's often destroying things that we need to destroy. The problem with it is that it can also destroy our connections with others, and we get angry and stuff. And then it's not being productive anymore. We don't have to destroy our relationships with other people, and we don't have to destroy things that don't need to be destroyed. It's mostly our own inner weakness that needs to be destroyed. When Mars is powerful, that's what happens. And so again, this is all part of the insight that you can be getting now. Because it's very possible that you went through that aspect of life, and even if you did destroy the thing that needed to be destroyed properly, it created a lot of aggravation and stress, and maybe you had to get away from some people who you were like, okay, these people are part of the thing, and I can't do the thing I need to do if I'm still interacting with these people. This is the stuff that happens many times. Often, particularly in personal interactions, we have to put up a boundary, and often it's hard for us to put up a boundary unless we become sort of cruel about it. But then we can go back and clean it up later. And that's what this is about. This Jupiter going, behind Mars is now bringing insight and wisdom and our teachings and the things that inspire us, and this insight and wisdom that allows us to see this other area of life that we were just very frustrated about. And maybe we got into some personal battles with others, or we destroyed certain aspects of life, or again, often it's relationships with people that we didn't really need to destroy. And so we can go back and clean that up now. It doesn't have to be as difficult as it was before. We can get the insight, and that includes things like going back, not just getting the lesson ourselves, but also, perhaps even like apologizing to people who we might have hurt unnecessarily, because we really don't need to hurt anyone in order to establish boundaries. There's no gun to our head in most of our relationships, or in any of our relationships, particularly as adults. That's whether it's business agreements, personal agreements, friendships, whatever. And if we need to have a break, we can have the break without being cruel. If we're cruel and angry, it's because of our problem, because we've allowed ourselves to act out of alignment with our principles. And now we're blaming the other person for our inability to, manage our own boundaries and manage our own sense of integrity. This is the kind of thing that happens. And so, again, many times in the moment, we don't know how to do it without being cruel and harsh. But we get do-overs in life. We get to go back and do it over. And this is one of those moments where we get it's a do-over of the Gemini energy. And that's why even with this graphic, you see, I like this graphic here with Jupiter here is like the big brother, trying to help Mars and guide Mars energy toward that higher understanding of the battle and of fighting the good fight, right? So that's what I want to talk about today. It's a very important shift that's happening. Notice it in your life. Notice in the world how we're seeing an emergence of that Jupiter and Gemini energy, where, philosophically things seem to be shifting, maybe even a little more inspiring. I tend to see this as a little bit more inspiring than the Jupiter and Taurus, which things felt really stuck. There's a lot of, dogmatism and sort of religiosity and just, well, I believe it and that's it, kind of rigidity with Jupiter in Taurus, because it's a fixed earth sign, also greed and things like that. And, just accumulation can happen a lot with Jupiter and Taurus. And Gemini, again, it's a dual sign. It's more open. It's about trying to understand things. It's not a big difference between Jupiter and Mercury. It's an important distinction because one is based on belief and faith and hope, and one is based on details, and we can get them confused. But they're not that far away from each other. They're opposites. Opposites tend to attract, and they tend to feed each other in a way that can be very beneficial to each. Again, the best gurus and teachers are the ones who can also explain, break down the teachings, which is the Gemini nature, right? And the best ideas that we come up with, which is the Gemini, Mercury, are the ones that are connected to a higher purpose, not just entertaining or just playing devil's advocate or bouncing around ideas without any big point to it, which is Jupiter. So Jupiter in Gemini, again, we have to watch the shadow side of this, where we mistake our beliefs to be literal facts, even though we haven't done the work. But again, if we have understanding and awareness, like I'm talking about here, and like I have been talking about, and like I talk about in much greater detail on this web class, on this class, I go into this in great detail. Really understanding what is Jupiter, what is Gemini, what can we really expect here? So you're very much primed to notice these things within yourself. And then also, if it makes sense for you to want to understand these shifts that are happening now, go to my 2025 Vedic Astrology and, get that as well. But I think we'll leave it at that, and I'll have links below as well. For a limited time, I'm offering 10 hours of masterclasses, Yoga and Vedic Astrology, Quantum Vedic Astrology, and Spiritual Astrology Masterclass. These are 3 great courses that will really help you a lot. Now, in case you don't know who I am, I taught the Astroved certification course of Dattatreya Shiva Baba in 2010. Ravi Shankar published my book in 2018. I've been around for decades. I've been teaching these great classes, and if you go to VedicAstrologyEssentials.com, you can get this 90% off discount of these 3 great classes, more than 10 hours, guaranteed value. You can check this out. These 3 classes will give you all the necessary tools to begin to learn Vedic astrology. Please find me on YouTube at Sam Jeppy, Vedic Astrology Teacher. On there since 2007, thousands of hours of classes. Also on Facebook at Astrology Teacher, tons of articles updated regularly, and I'm on Instagram at Vedic Astrology 108, ongoing updates and interaction.